Ian Costello, we're halfway point in the season so far. Quarter-final Heineken Cup, third place in the RaboDirect, and semi-final of the British and Irish Cup. And I suppose if it were a school report, it'd be favourable.
Well, I think it's definitely more favourable than this time last year. I suppose it was a unique situation where we didn't make the knockout stages of the Heineken Cup, and we had made the final of the British and Irish Cup the year before, which gave us a huge boost. And then to be knocked out in the group stages was very disappointing last year. So yeah, it's been a massive improvement, but like you said, it's the halfway stage. It's going to depend on what happens in April and May. That's really going to decide how successful a season it ends up being.
And even earlier on this year, when you talked about the sort of the negatives from last year, this year started off with a lot of people maybe outside the group having negative, if you like, feelings towards how things were going to go this year. Does that impact on you, or how do you deal with that?
From our point of view, and look, this is my first year involved full-time with the setup, so I can only really speak clearly about this year. And for me, especially in the early stages of the Heineken Cup, when maybe there was some negative press about the way we were playing, internally there was a lot of people, the message was keep the faith. There was a lot of things being done very, very well, and we felt that we weren't too far away from that Northampton performance all along, that the standards were there in training. We were a little bit unlucky maybe in some games not to finish off a lot of opportunities we created, but training standards were good, the intensity was good, the attitude was good. And I think if those things are strong, something like the Northampton game, when you get a little bit lucky and you finish off your chances, is bound to come along.
And obviously, Ian, from your point of view, and probably from everybody, from a coaching point of view, referring to those performances that have you where you are at this point of the season, and recognising the old dogs that are hard road, like the Paulies and the Rogers of those, it must be a huge, certainly very gratifying for you lads to see what we might call the next generation coming through and contributing so handsomely to where Munster are today at this time of the year.
Yeah, well, I think there's been kind of a myth that Munster haven't been producing enough players through academies and through underage national sides. I think the reality in Munster is because of the likes of Paul O'Connell, Donica, Ronan Nagar, we've so many established internationals in the squad that have so much experience, they play at such a high standard, it takes a little bit longer for those guys to break through. And I think, you see the likes of Peter Manny and any of these guys who've broken through now, for me they're going to be better players for having been around those players and having to compete with them for positions. I think that's where Munster is unique and can't be judged by any other standards, is that generally to get into the team you need to be displacing an international or someone who's been established for a long period of time. And I think maybe they speak about transitionary periods, and I think at the moment what we're seeing is we're probably seeing maybe 6 to 8 players starting to break into the squad, some that have established themselves, that have really been playing very, very well at A standard or Munster 20 standard over the last 4 or 5 years. And we would have been very aware of these players. They just took a little bit longer to come through because of the quality that was in the senior squad, like Paulie and Raj and the guys that you mentioned.
And Ian, notwithstanding your role as skills coach in that marvellous win over Northampton Saints, obviously one of your other huge focuses is the British and Irish Cup, and as I said, semi-final against Leinster. After a bit of an iffy start, but you worked your way back into the competition, semi-final now. What sort of a challenge does this Leinster match present?
Well, I think the first thing from our perspective is that to be in the British and Irish semi-final gives the entire squad a focus, whereas we felt last year that the guys that weren't playing week in, week out didn't have another focus. So let's say the A players and the quality would have dropped off at the end of the season. What we have now is we have a very, very clear focus. We have a very clear picture in our mind of what we have to do. We know we have to go to Donnybrook and we have to beat Leinster on a weekend where they've got a home quarter-final in the Heineken Cup as well. So look, we're really looking forward to that. Leinster, you'll hear time and time again about the players that they're producing, the quality they're producing, the amount of players that play with Irish 20 squads, and maybe in comparison to Munster they've had far more significant numbers there. But that's great. That's just another motivating tool for us. We're very happy with our squad. We've an excellent work ethic, a very, very good bunch of players both on and off the field, and our performances have been pretty good today, so we're going to look forward to that. We just see that as a big challenge that we'd be very eager to overcome, so that there's a carrot there for a home final, which would be outstanding, obviously.
Is it a help or a hindrance, Ian, to be preparing for that in the same week or the same 2 weeks running into a quarter final of a Heineken Cup?
Well, I think what we've done, and maybe over the last 3 years, what we've probably learned to do, and I think this year we may have gotten the balance right. Previous years when I was involved with the A squad, it was quite hard to get the balance between a Heineken Cup week, which has to be our priority. And look, nothing has changed; it's still our priority. But what's different this year, I suppose, is that we have We have the staff and good staff in around the A structure as well. You know, the likes of Nilo working there, Ken O'Connell has been there. We've very good strength and conditioning staff. The senior staff have taken on board, the senior strength and conditioning staff have taken on board the A team as well. So we're able to train side by side on a Heineken Cup week. And in fact, what we probably do now, and we probably got to the system where we actually assist each other quite a bit, because we're in a position that we can run opposition plays depending on who the senior team are playing. So it's very complementary, I think, at the moment. Look, there's no question the focus has to be in the Heineken Cup. We all accept that. But I think what Tony has allowed this year, and what he's really encouraged this year, is that we have our own identity. And I think that gives the A players an extra boost, because it gives them their own focus for what they're doing while the senior squad are preparing for a Heineken Cup, without taking away from that, obviously.
And finally, Ian, and for a fellow who, I know you said in the senior setup you're only involved a year, but you've had a huge hands-on in terms of bringing a lot of these younger lads through to where they are now. It must be great, it must be hugely gratifying for a guy like you, on a personal level and a professional level, to be looking at an Irish team on Sunday and seeing Peter O'Mahony coming out and on part of the matchday squad.
Yeah, well, look, it's like this year has been, it's been fantastic for the emergence of some players. Like Peter, obviously, this year is, in the news because he's obviously made the bench, which is a fantastic achievement. But there's nobody down here surprised by that. Peter captained the under-20 side that I was involved with coaching, and you just knew that was the path he was going to take unless something untoward happened. Same when he's involved with the A team, he was captain of the A side. He has that unbelievable drive. He has those characteristics that maybe some of the more established players have. His maturity, the way he approaches the game, the respect he has from the players around him. So there is no great surprise in that, to be perfectly honest. It's very, very encouraging for us, very pleasing for us to have worked with the likes of himself, Connor, Zebo. We see Luke O'Dea now coming onto the fore, Mike Sherry. And look, that's what the A team is about. The A team is twofold. It's one, obviously we want to make sure that we're producing that conveyor belt of players so that Munster is strong going forward into the future. But also, and this is something we're keen to bring, is that we really want to win this British and Irish Cup as well. So that's where our own identity comes into it. And we have, with the boys gone up, we have a number of players now that I know that will play against Leinster in a couple of months' time. They'll feature next year in RaboDirect and hopefully Heineken Cup as well.